Okay, so quick update before I go into my review of Captain America Brave New World. A lot of times when I do these, I say, I'm so sorry I couldn't get you an untitled review show, the fatigue knocked me out and stuff like that. And it's kind of been happening so much, I think I'm just going to make this the show. The more kind of vlog style. Even this morning, I got done shoveling and I came in and I slept for I don't know, 2-3 hours, something like that. I mean, that's just what it does, and I get the brain fog really bad. So like I always say, it is getting better, but it's not gone. And, the only other thing I'd have to, maybe take away is, doing the nostalgia critics, and I don't want to do that. I like doing those, so this is kind of the compromise I have to do. And on top of that, the numbers are about the same, whether I do an untitled review show or a vlog review, so I'm gonna miss doing it, but at the same time, it is still... It just really stresses me out when I can't do one, so if I just make it like this is the norm, I'll probably do that. So this is, for at least the time being, if maybe it manages to go away. I do like doing that style, I enjoy it a great deal, but yeah, it really stresses me out when I can't hit a deadline or when I can't get one out. So if I just make this the norm, I think it'll be better for me, because then stress makes the fatigue worse and everything, so blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I am doing better, though. I mean, I know it sounds like it's been, I've been saying that for a while, but it is true. It is definitely better from where it started, but enough of that. Now I'm going to go straight into Captain America Brave New World, and yeah, boy, this is the most in one ear and out the other movie. This is not a bad movie. It's really hard for me to find a reason to recommend it, though. I can see someone seeing this film and saying, yeah, that was fine. That was totally okay. But yeah, maybe apart from one or two little details that my lizard brain goes, ooh, at in terms of stuff happening in the MCU, nothing really stood out that much. It just wasn't that interesting. The writing in it feels 15 years old. There are so many jokes in here. And it's not a movie that's bogged down by jokes by any means, but you can tell they said, well, we need a joke here, we need a joke there, and they all feel like jokes that, maybe would have worked in Iron Man 1. And even then, I don't always know. Some of them, I swear some of these jokes were, from Ocean's 11. Like the George Clooney one. There's one where somebody makes a big speech, and it's like, oh, that's good. You've been working a while on that. You get a speech writer, do that a little bit. Yeah, how'd it go? Oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that was almost beat for beat from Ocean's 11, and how many years old is that? And even that was a remake of something else, but, or a callback to something else. But yeah, this is not a movie that I'm watching, rolling my eyes, saying, oh my god, this is terrible by any means, but just nothing is really leaving much of an impression. And there's a couple things I can say, all right, like that stood out. One of them is Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, I think, for someone that I think almost on a dare or is just being a troll, almost tries to sabotage his interviews sometimes, just showing how much he doesn't care. It does not show in his performances. That's definitely a good thing. Whenever he is acting, you swear he really tries to get a good idea what's going on, what the right reaction of it. He never feels like he's sleepwalking through it. Any scene with him in it is usually pretty good. There's another actor here. I have the IMDb here up. Where is he? Are you not showing up here? For whatever reason, he's not showing up. I gotta look a little deeper into it. But he's a dude who's framed in the movie. You've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. He does a good job. And then the villain, without giving too much away, was fun to see again. It's an actor I like, and I kind of felt like he got the shaft in the past in terms of the MCU, and I'm glad he's back. But with that said, this film feels like a best of compilation of Marvel's afterthoughts. Even this Captain America, I kind of had to remind myself, oh yeah, Anthony Mackie is Captain America now. I forgot about that, Falcon and Winter Soldier. And, it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, if you want, I'm sure it's like a million Captain Americas in the comics. If you want to keep it going, fine, sure. I am one of those people that at first, I saw the original Captain America movie, thought it was okay, thought it was fine, and then Avengers came out, and again, I'm like, he's fine, but I didn't see him as a real leader, a real, wow, this is an icon kind of thing. Not really did that happen until Winter Soldier. And even then, I was like, okay, well, now I buy him as Captain America, but is he a leader? And then as the films kept going with the other Avengers movies, with Civil War and so forth, he really came into his own. So I mentioned that because, to me right now, I do not really see Anthony Mackie as like the replacement of that, you know, the new Captain America kind of thing, even though he's a totally fine actor. And there's nothing really that wrong with the character, but I was trying to figure out why. And one is, again, could take time. Could be something where it could be like Chris Evans, where I'm like, I need to see a little bit more from him, or he needs to be defined a little bit more. He has to go through more stuff. That totally could be. The other thing, too, it didn't hit me until halfway through this, because I'm like, well, what do I know about this guy? I mean, I saw Falcon and Winter Soldier, and he's in a ton, you know, Falcon's in a ton of these movies, but he was never someone that, like, stood out. I mean, that was nobody's, like, favorite Avenger, you know what I mean, Falcon. But again, you can change that. You can rise up and, you know, become this big icon and everything. But something I realized that just really kind of struck to the core of why Captain America, one of the reasons Captain America, at least in the movies, was interesting, was that he was from a different time. He was kind of like if one of the Kents became a superhero, but not Superman, no. But, I mean, you know, like Paul Kent became a superhero kind of thing. Like, you know, he's a little bit of a Boy Scout, but he's just got these old-fashioned values and everything. But, you know, they're good values, they're strong values, they're values that carry over. But he's still out of his time. He's still a little bit out of his element. And that's very interesting. Just from the start, that's very interesting. And this Captain America, I'm just like, well, okay, he's a nice guy. He fights through stuff like any superhero should, but I don't get too much else out of him. Even during the Falcon and Winter Soldier, where they really, you know, go much more into who he is and everything. Again, he's fine, but to be the Captain America, the face of America and everything, or at least in this universe, in the MCU, it's just not there yet. I'm not saying it can't get there, but it's definitely not there in this movie. And with that said, if you're looking at this movie thinking, well, that's okay, I just want to see him fight the Red Hulk, bad news. It is in the movie, and it's there for a bit of time, but it's not until the end. And full disclosure, I think I would have gotten into this movie more if I did not know there was going to be a Red Hulk in this. You know, they could tease it, like they certainly do throughout the majority of the movie, but I feel like if I was watching this not knowing what was going on with Harrison Ford, not knowing what he was going to turn into, I would be more interested. But because they do save it to the end, I'm like, well, okay, we'll just get to the big silly effects. I want to see him as big silly Hulk and everything. And when it happens, it's neat. I think with every Hulk, every iteration of Hulk, it's going to be a mix of good effects and bad effects. And even when the effects are bad, most of the time, it's still enjoyable to watch. And this is no exception. It's fun seeing the Harrison Ford face on this giant monster, on this red giant monster. And it is enjoyable. The fighting is, you know, kind of cool. But all the advertising is making it look like this is, I mean, bare minimum, he's coming in at the halfway point. I mean, bare minimum, probably the end of the first act. You know, he's got to be in there, and he's not. It's like the climax of the movie. And honestly, the best parts are in the trailer for the fight. Not to say it's a bad fight, but yeah, the coolest stuff is in there. And aside from that, there's a kind of a neat fight involving these jets flying around where Captain America and the new Falcon, who's a little annoying, but again, that kind of goes back to the writing here. The actor's not that bad, but the writing's not the best for him. They have to fight these two jets. They have to stop these two jets. That was kind of fun. That was a little different. But everything else, all the lines, all the setups, I mean, every beat for beat is just something you've seen in either another spy film, but more specifically, another Marvel film. I mean, they have another, you say these words, or you play this song, you do something that seems mundane, and somebody's gonna go and kill somebody. It activates something to kill somebody, and that's just so tired. This movie feels so tired that even, and this is a weird nitpick, But I feel it is kind of relevant. Even the credits are boring. The opening and closing credits are just like some little blurry squares. That's it, and the text is over them. And I know you're like, well, that shouldn't be the judge of a movie. You're right. But one of the things with Marvel films is that they try to show, oh yeah, we know we're hot shit. We know we got it. Even our credits are awesome. And oh, wait till you see the mid-credit sequence and the end-credit sequence. Well, first of all, there's no mid-credit sequence. Okay, well, the end credit sequence better be really, really good. It's not. Again, I won't go into spoilers, but it is the most generic, something's coming, and that's it. And there's no real clues for it, and it's not worth it. Don't wait till the end. Maybe ask a friend if you're that desperate. The villain in this, like I said, I do like seeing this actor again. I go back and forth whether or not I like the makeup on him. I mostly don't. Every time he showed up, I started snickering. And they keep him in shadow, so I'm like, ooh, like this is gonna look really neat. And then when you see him, I was just trying not to laugh in my seat. But I go back and forth because he does look very comic bookish. I mean, he definitely looks like a character right out of a comic book. And I haven't seen what this character looks like in the comic. I get the feeling it's pretty close to how he looks. So I'm like, okay, we always say we want these things to look more comic accurate. But this is one where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like you could have done something else. You're going to get Red Hulk later. There's your comic accurate right there. But yeah, this guy, I feel like, I don't know, either had to be toned down more or had to be even crazier, like something to really stand out. But this in-between that they have, I feel like didn't work. But I will say, I can just so easily see people watching this movie and just say, yeah, that was all right. You know, just people kind of going around and kicking ass and trying to solve a mystery of who's doing this and who's behind pulling the strings and yada, yada, yada. Ooh, there's a callback, there's a callback. There is one word they mentioned in this that, again, my lizard brain just went, ooh, in terms of what they're going to do with the MCU, and they say the word a lot, and it's building up something. The one thing I'm really looking forward to in the MCU, because like I said, recently it's been getting more and more mundane. I kind of stuck up for it when people were trying to tear it down like after Endgame, and I'm just like, nah, I'm going to give it a little bit more time, especially because there was experimental stuff going on in the MCU, and I like when they experiment. I want them to try something different. But yeah, it has been pretty mundane, pretty wowless, and this definitely seems like one of those movies. Like, it's not, I don't know, what was it, the Eternals or the Marvels or anything like that, but it's just a very bare minimum Marvel movie. I like Black Widow more than this. And again, because they had interesting characters, I like seeing that family interact off each other, where this one just felt like, okay, they're just doing the generic superhero things. They're saying the generic lines that you say. The chemistry between these people talking a lot of the time doesn't feel very believable because, again, the writing feels like 15 years old. How do you say it? Giancarlo Esposito. Gus. I always have a hard time saying his name. I hear even when people say his name, they're apparently not saying it right. You're emphasizing the wrong thing. I don't know, but he seems wasted because that's a great actor. That guy can just make the phone book sound fascinating, and he is giving his all. He does a good job, but he's not in the movie long enough to justify him being there. And I feel like a lot of the actors are just here to be like, just to be kind of a place filler, just to be like, hey, here's just some filler for you until we get to more of the actual Marvel stuff. You want to see, ooh, something's coming, and credit sequence, something's coming. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. It did not do much for me. I really can't see any reason in recommending it unless you just want to see those loose ends tied up, which there are quite a few. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that goes back to the original MCU. What is the original MCU Hulk movie? Because you think it's the Incredible Hulk, but even in that opening credits, they have callbacks a little bit to the Ang Lee Hulk. So I don't know, but one of those, any of those, and there is callbacks to the Eternals. I mean, probably the biggest one, literally the biggest one they do address, and it does play a big plot point in this, so that was kind of nice to see. But that's all it feels like. I never got that passionate into what's going on. I guess I didn't feel like anyone was necessarily phoning it in. The only thing I felt like was being phoned in was the writing, which is all stuff that almost feels like, I can't quite say it felt like AI wrote it, but I feel like somebody did tell a writer or a room of writers, hey, go and recreate that scene. Have this line be like that line when it worked, 10 some years ago. And it just feels very flat and, like I said, very wowless. So, like I said, I don't hate this movie, but I did not find much passion for it. I don't see any real point in checking it out. It's something where, kind of like the Eternals and the Marvels or something like that, you could just ask somebody what happened again, and they could tell you just in a sentence. There's nothing. Maybe that's the problem with it. Everything feels like it could, for whatever the following movies or shows, it could just be told to you in a sentence what happened. And there's nothing that demands to be seen. Outside of, again, maybe a little bit of the Red Hulk, that just because there's a silly part of me that likes to see Harrison Ford as a Hulk, I mean, that's just fun. But again, we already saw a fair amount of that in the trailers, and it's all over the place. And I just feel like, man, if they kept that a secret, if I went into this not knowing what Harrison Ford was going to do or turn into or what was going on with him, I just know if I saw that last chunk, if I saw that climax, I'd be, what? I would just say, like, this is crazy. But instead, it's underwhelming because you know it's coming and they save it until the end, and there's not enough in the rest of it to justify waiting that long. So, with that said, what did you all think? Did you really like this movie? Do you think this is a really good follow-up to the other Captain America movies? Anthony Mackie is a perfect replacement, and then they're back on track. The MCU is back. Or did you hate it? Do you think this is just another failure from the MCU and they haven't learned their lessons and they're just retreading old familiar material and they're not giving us anything new? Or do you think it's alright, it had enough action sequences and enough cool scenes that it was enough to go to the theater to see, but not really enough to, go see again? Let me know your thoughts and I'll see you next time. Take care.